Welcome back to Popcorn Movie Recaps. Today we will go over a comedy, horror film from 2004 titled Shaun of the Dead. Note there are spoilers ahead. Please watch and enjoy.
Sales consultant Shaun is at a bar with his friends when his girlfriend, Liz, complains how they don't spend much quality time together as a couple. Liz expresses her concern about how they're always hanging out at pubs like the Winchester. Liz's friend David chimes in, saying Shaun should indeed make time for Liz. David's girlfriend Diane agrees, citing how she and David are always going on trips together. Shaun reasons out that he chooses to be in the same bar every day for his friend Ed. Ed is a man-child with no job who spends the better half of his day playing video games and drinking. Shaun promises Liz that things will change and says he'll start that very day, promising her a romantic evening at a restaurant for just the two of them. Shaun wakes up the next morning to a pigsty of a house with Ed busy on the couch playing video games. He prepares for work and his housemate Pete comes in, complaining about the filth in the house and Ed's lack of care. He also brings up how Ed is a freeloader and questions why he's still staying in the house with them. Shaun defends Ed, saying they've been friends since preschool and he loves having Ed around as they always have a great time. Shaun and Pete try and fail to get Ed off his butt to do even simple house chores. On his way to work, Shaun sees a woman faint while waiting for a bus. At his job, Shaun has to take charge as some of the employees are sick. Shaun tends to customers when news footage shows a rising virus threat sweeping the nation. Shaun's stepdad, Philip, comes to see him and reminds him of his monthly visit. He also suggests Shaun brings flowers as he forgot to bring any for Mother's Day. The relationship between the two is clearly not a good one, but Philip still tells Shaun he's looking forward to the visit. As Philip leaves, Shaun sees military trucks passing by. As Shaun buys flowers for his mom, he notices someone running and a homeless person across the street trying to eat live pigeons. Before he could take a better look, the homeless man disappears. Shaun takes a bus ride home and a passenger coughs uncontrollably. The bus gets into a traffic jam and Shaun gets off to walk. He runs into Yvonne, an old friend, and the two are surprised to see each other. As they talk, paramedics arrive and see that the cause of the traffic jam is a man who has fallen unconscious while driving. Shaun gets reminded of his promise to book a restaurant for his romantic evening with Liz and hurries home. He tries to call the restaurant but fails as the place is fully booked. With no other choice, Shaun suggests the Winchester. Liz hangs up and Shaun heads over to her place with the flowers he got for his mother. At Liz's apartment, David and Diane advise Shaun not to head up but does so anyway. Shaun apologizes to a disappointed Liz and he brings her the flowers, but Liz sees it's for Shaun's mom. Liz expresses her fear of becoming someone who just sits at a bar every day for the rest of her life and breaks up with Shaun. Ed and Shaun spend the night drinking, and on their way home, they spot a smooching couple and make fun of them, but don't see that the man's head almost falls off while the woman gnaws on him. They see another person walking strangely and moaning loudly. They think nothing of it and assume he's drunk. Shaun and Ed get drunk and continue their party at the house. Pete gets up and angrily tells them to quiet down. He complains because he has to wake up early and get to work because everyone in his department is sick. Ed notices a scratch on Pete's hand and he says he got mugged and one of them bit him. He goes back to bed wanting to get sleep, telling them he's developing a fever. The next morning, Shaun gets a foreboding warning on the television. Ed informs him that there's a woman in the backyard. They go to her and see that she's completely dazed. Assuming she's drunk, the pair make fun of her, but the woman attacks. Shaun pushes her off and the woman gets impaled on a metal pipe. To their shock, she gets back up and another undead person walks into the yard. Ed and Shaun head in and try to call the police but get no answer. On the news, they learn that the dead are coming back to life and an effective way to beat them is by destroying the brain or removing the head. As they watch the news, a zombie walks in and they throw random things at it, only disabling it when Ed bashes it in the head with an ashtray. Now knowing how to defeat the zombies, they head to the backyard, grab a shovel and a wooden paddle from the shed, and beat the two zombies' heads. They remember about Pete getting bitten and try calling out to him but get no answer. Shaun tries calling Liz but also gets no answer. Shaun's mom Barbara calls and informs Shaun that Philip has been bitten and is slowly getting sick. Shaun lays out a plan to head to Barbara's place, kill Philip, then to Liz's, then take everyone to the Winchester to hold out and wait for everything to blow over. They take Pete's car and arrive at Barbara's. Shaun finds Philip and discovers he's still alright. Shaun talks to Barbara and asks how much she loves Philip. Barbara is annoyed and tells Shaun he'll have to be civil with Philip even though it's obvious that they dislike each other. As Shaun tells them they need to head out, Philip gets bitten on the neck. They escape and head to Liz's place. Shaun goes in alone and sees David and Diane are also there. Shaun tells him of his plan and Diane agrees but David is hesitant. Shaun eventually convinces them and they all arm themselves. They meet up with Ed and cram themselves in Philip's small car. They bicker and argue why they should go to Winchester. As they argue, Philip wakes up and tells Shaun being a father has been difficult. He says that they met when Shaun was already a young man. He tells Shaun that he'd always love him and he tries his best to be someone Shaun could look up to. Philip dies, telling Shaun to take care of Barbara. Shaun tells Ed to stop the car and he informs everyone that Philip has died, but to their surprise, Philip has come back as a zombie. They stagger out of the car and run through backyards with David complaining the whole time. They run into Yvonne, who also has her family trying to get to the other side of town. They exchange pleasantries and head in opposite directions. They get to a fence and Shaun tells them the Winchester is just over. They notice that Barbara is missing and Shaun hurries back. He finds her and they get attacked by a zombie, but Shaun fights and impales it to a tree. Shaun gets an idea to pretend being zombies to get past the huge crowd of undead in front of the Winchester. The act works until they reach the Winchester's locked doors, but Ed's phone rings. Ed talks loudly and gets the zombies' attention. Shaun is furious and tells Ed he's been a screw-up. He says he spent his whole life sticking his neck out for Ed, and Ed always messes everything up. They stop and see all of the undead are staring at them. David takes a trash can and breaks a window for everyone to get in. Shaun tries to get the undead horde's attention and leads them away while everyone else gets into the pub. Barbara finds the flowers Shaun had thrown away earlier, saying she thinks it's for her. Inside the Winchester, David wants to take charge as he argues that Shaun's plan has been a complete bust. David is clearly somewhat jealous of Shaun and expresses his anger, telling Liz Shaun can't be depended on. Shaun pops back in, getting in through the back door. Shaun tries to flip the fuses so they could watch TV, but sees that the mob of zombies has followed him and are waiting by the back door. Ed turns on a game and makes a lot of loud noises which attract the undead on the streets. The dead come up to the windows and the group tries to devise a plan to deal with them. A zombified bartender shows up from nowhere and the jukebox starts playing music. Ed, Shaun, and Liz fight the bartender until Ed gets the bartender's shotgun and Shaun uses it to bash the bartender's head. Liz discovers that Barbara has been bitten and her condition has worsened. Barbara slowly turns into a zombie and Shaun cries and begs her to stay alive. Shaun holds Barbara in his arms as he starts convulsing and stops breathing. David appears with a shotgun and aims it at Barbara. Shaun and David argue. Shaun brings up that all of David's pent-up anger is because of David's suppressed feelings for Liz. Shaun says he's always known that David is in love with Liz and that David believes Shaun doesn't deserve her. Diane confirms this too and tells them she's known about it for a long time, telling everyone she and David only got together when Liz rejected him. They continue arguing and Liz tries to calm everyone down, but Barbara gets back up. Shaun takes the shotgun and shoots his mom in the head. David succumbs to his temper and opts to get out and head to the streets, saying he'll have better chances. Diane gets angry with David and calls him out for his behavior. She shouts at David and it seems like David gets some sense knocked back into him. David is about to apologize when the horde of undead breaks in and takes him. Diane goes after David and gets eaten too. Ed, Liz, and Shaun remain and get cornered at the bar. Ed gets bitten trying to fend off the attack and they find the cellar doors and hide underground. With nowhere else to go, they decide to use the remaining shells to kill themselves. Shaun and Liz are sharing a cigarette when Shaun sees a switch for the cellar door that leads to the streets, their escape. Shaun tries to take Ed, but he tells them he wants to stay. He's bleeding out too much and he thinks he'll start turning soon. Shaun apologizes to Ed for shouting at him earlier and calling him a screw-up, but Ed laughs it off. As the zombies break through the cellar door, Shaun and Liz make it up the streets, but the military arrives with Yvonne and starts shooting the zombies. 6 months pass and the zombie apocalypse is being handled. It's still unclear as to what caused the outbreak, but the zombies have been discovered to still retain their primal instincts, making them ideal for menial, repetitive tasks. Zombies have been accepted into the world as some are used for fun TV show games, and a woman even decides to remain with her undead husband. Shaun and Liz are happily living together, and Shaun heads to the shed to play a video game, and the zombified Ed greets him as they play together.
Please like and subscribe if you like these types of videos, so we can continue bringing you more. Thanks for watching.